speaker view or in a bunch of little faces?
Oh man, it's a bunch of little faces. Hold on. I got this. I can do this.
Okay. Well, once you do, then I'll share it to the other.
Okay, hold on. Let me make sure. It should be speaker view now.
Okay, I'll take a look.
Okay, good. We're good. Go ahead and share it. Thank you.
So are we live on Facebook then? Yes?
Yes, we're live on Facebook. We're just going to wait a few more minutes, viewers. I don't think everybody's watching yet.
The stream might not have actually hit Facebook yet. Diana says she's still not seeing it.
It's on my computer.
There is a little bit of latency.
Yeah, it's live. Oh, wait, hold up. My bad.
Yeah, I'm not seeing
it. No, I apologize. You're right. Housing now. A dialogue. I'll just put the title so we can get started. So they didn't see none of that chitter chatter. And then we'll call it education, not gaming. Well, shit, why is it set to gaming?
Now, Warden, if I disappear, it's because I got family showed up to help me move this chemical toilet on my driveway to the backyard, back door. So I have to establish priorities.
Oh, fuck it. It won't let me get out of this gaming option, which is weird. Oh, well, we're going to be live in just a little bit. It's going now.
No.
So I'm just going to say, if you're not speaking, to mute out. I'll mute out myself too.
Sure. All right, we have confirmation that we are live.
Right on.
Should I let people in? It's 1 o'clock. Okay.
All right, exciting.
All right, I guess that person got let in. All right.
I could give us a little background music while we're gathering.
Yeah, I was going to play this awesome CD I was playing earlier by this Adam Gottlieb and One Love Band. I don't know. It's pretty badass.
Well,
yeah. No, I'd rather hear you play, brother. No. Let's make it real.
All right. Well, no, I'll just do a little shuffle for nothing fancy. Really nothing fancy.
What is it on Facebook?
I did write some new verses to Sweet Home Chicago. I'll sing a verse or two. This was based on some of our conversations, one of the articles we read getting ready for today. Well, next year, if we can't pay the rent, don't worry, baby, I got us a tent. Come on, pretty soon we'll have to go. 'Cause you know it ain't for you and me, no. Sweet home, Chicago. They say they wanna clean up these slums. Well, Tent City, here we come, come on. But pretty soon we'll have to go low. 'Cause it ain't for you and me, no. Sweet home, Chicago. Gotta do one more so it's not depressing. But how did it go? I'll remember in a sec. Oh yeah, I got it. You know, if these developers had their way, they'd make a city where only millionaires stay. Come on. Well, where the hell we supposed to go, Lord? Oh, we ain't going, no, this will always be sweet home Chicago. Yeah! That's all I got for you. All right, we got some people on the Zoom call here. Look at that. Good to see y'all.
And we have people watching on Facebook too.
Something like that. All right. That was inspired by an article from the Rally Comrades called "Sweet Home Chicago?" ? Yes. All right. Give the people what they want. That's what we're here to talk about, in fact, isn't it? All right. It is 1:05. So when do y'all want to get started?
I say we start.
All right. Well, welcome everyone to what's sure to be a very, very exciting discussion. We're here to talk about, how to make housing a human right. And I won't say too much else. My name is Patrick with the League of Revolutionaries for a New America, and I'm going to introduce to you all our facilitators this afternoon. My longtime good comrades. So yeah, we have Adam Gottlieb and Jessica Sainz. Adam is a poet, MC, teaching artist, songwriter, my band leader, and a community organizer with the Chicago Union of the Homeless and lots of other organizations. And Jessica is a community organizer with the CUH. Sits on its executive board along with Adam. She's an organizer with the Autonomous Tenants Union, as well as Chicago North Side Abolitionists. And I will just, y'all can just take it away.
She's also an officer of the Union of the Homeless. We're wearing many hats here.
We are.
Yeah, a lot of us. So welcome everyone. Thanks so much for being here. I really mean that. I'm just looking forward to a good conversation today. And I'm gonna start off with just a very brief kind of overview. I'm actually gonna time myself because I don't want to take up too much time here, but of kind of like what does the housing crisis look like in Chicago, and then Jess is going to talk a little bit about what people are doing about it, and then we're going to hear from our three speakers who will introduce in turn. We'll just acknowledge them now. Miss Bonnie Contreras from Chicago Union of the Homeless, John Schmizek. Can you pronounce your name for us one time?
Oh yeah, Schmizek, John Schmizek.
Music, thank you. From Chicago Tenants Movement and Counterpower, and also Jess will also be speaking as an organizer with Autonomous Tenants Union. So, all right. So what does the housing crisis look like in Chicago? I assume most people on this call already know, but I just want to start out by kind of laying out some facts to get us grounded in the reality. I'm quoting here from the Rally Comrades and Chicago Tribune and Chicago Sun-Times. And most of the information comes from the Aspen Institute, which estimates that 30 to 40 million people in the US are at risk of being evicted when the moratoria on evictions are lifted. And that will allow landlords, courts, and law enforcement to rev up the eviction machine. Before the pandemic, this eviction machine was already uprooting families from their homes at an incredible rate. In 2019, more than 23,000 evictions were filed in Chicago, and across the US, it was 7 evictions every minute, with 3 actually being evicted. And even with the moratorium on evictions, we're still seeing renters being pushed out with illegal lockouts, with notices on doors and legal manipulations, and in sometimes actual evictions where a lot of times the moratoria just don't apply. And those who are being pushed out have nowhere to turn. It's also important to point out that the Aspen Institute reported in August 2020 that only 1 in 4 eligible renters actually receive federal financial assistance due to chronic underfunding by the federal government. And I want to put a human face on that because there are so many people, as we said, who are being locked out, and some of the important battles of our times are battles like a woman named Jessie Hunt, who just earlier at the beginning of this month was arrested on 7 counts of misdemeanor, I can barely even say the words, child endangerment, when she was, someone called the cops on her, some say a neighbor, some say the landlord, to do what's called a wellness check. And they found her 7 kids being, alone in the house. The oldest was 14, old enough to babysit by any reasonable standards, and she was getting a new kitchen sink. And I actually don't know very much about the details of this case, including where she's at in the court process, and if there are other people on the call who do. When we open it up for the dialogue, I would actually be interested in learning more about that. If we weren't so busy in the Chicago Union of the Homeless and all these other organizations, I wish we could have been more involved in her case specifically. But the nerve of a legal system that evicts and starves children and then arrests a mother for child endangerment is really beyond words to me. And she may well be one of these 3 out of 4 eligible renters who don't receive rental assistance, right? Even if they ask for it. And with the loss of 4 million affordable housing units over the last decade and a shortage of 7 million affordable apartments available to the lowest income renters, many entered into the pandemic already facing housing instability and vulnerable to eviction. So without substantial relief, we will become homeless by the millions, and tent cities and shanty towns will become permanent features of cities and towns throughout America. So we're here to talk about that. How did we arrive at this juncture? I was reading much of that from the Rally Comrades. And just a few things more in my last minute here. From Chicago Tribune. If the state moratorium had ended in January, it's been extended every month for 30 days. The Lawyers Committee for Better Housing, LCBH, predicted that up to 21,000 backlogged evictions could have been filed in Chicago this month. In comparison, only 1,567 evictions were filed each month in January and February last year, before the statewide shutdown. After this year's high levels of unemployment and delayed eviction filings that could still be carried out after the moratoria end, more evictions could be filed in a single month than in all of 2019. Let that sink in. That was from the LCBH and also the Center for Urban Research and Learning at Loyola University, Chicago. And the report also analyzed intelligence from Chicago Evictions Data Portal and found that, of course, to no one's surprise, majority Black areas had eviction filing rates 5 times higher than majority white areas, and evictions in Latinx neighborhoods are twice as high. And the last statistic here I'll share is that last year, Cook County opened its housing voucher list, offering 10,000 spots and got 60,000 applications, according to this politician Monocchio from the county. I forget his title, but he's from the county. And those who receive a voucher must put 30% of their income toward rent, and the government picks up the rest. So 60,000 applications for 10,000 spots. So just to put some numbers and some facts in our mind, and we're going to hear more human stories to put faces on all of that as we go today. But I just wanted to start out with that. So that raises the question, how are people meeting this moment? How are people fighting for housing in this crisis? And Jess, can you give us a little overview of that? Is Jess?
I'm on.
There you are. Okay, yeah. All right, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for the League of Revolutionaries for having us on. I do believe that a lot of ideas and really movements start with the questions that we ask together and feedback from us knowing like what we're doing and talking about it. So this is a really great opportunity. So thank you. So what we're seeing in response to the current, what's currently happening in Chicago is different structures of organizations are finding their niche to basically try to subdue the state to, you know, doing mass evictions. We got Lift the Ban at the state level, trying to do rent control, mortgage control, and trying to like alert just a lot of people in general about how, you know, we had mortgage relief, but we didn't have renters relief for a while. So that was like a part of it. They're doing the state level. They're looking at, you know, people getting churned out by property managers. They're looking at things like that nature. Then we have things like Chicago Tenants movement that John is going to speak more to. And it's something really exciting. It's a, you know, it's a coming together of different folks in the housing justice system, and as well as different tenant unions heads coming together to kind of create this mass movement. And it's really beautiful because they're doing things that are, you know, going beyond what is just the job of a tenant union, and starting to talk about eviction defense, starting to talk about the community engagement, and starting to spread the education. And then we have things responding at our level, which is the Chicago Union of the Homeless. And we are focusing on care of the people in the streets, and not just care of people in the streets, but we are also talking about people doubled up. We're also talking about people who live in their cars. We're also talking about people who are living in squats. But you know what I mean? Like houselessness touches us at very many different levels. And it's so important to create this struggle, to collect this struggle together, because it's just steps to homelessness, right? Eviction is very close to homelessness, as well as even owning a house. People think that they're scot-free when they own a house. You can lose property extremely fast in this country, in this state. And we're seeing people lose housing even from things like building code stuff, when they can't get us through the legality of things like a sheriff eviction, because it's times like this, they get us through building codes. And they're not leaving many options. I'm talking about things, the structures that we already have in place. And I'm hoping that we can have more of a discussion about how to decriminalize survival, especially when it comes to housing. We are seeing a lot of people respond also at the survival level too. I think what's really important is that, you know, somebody from the Chicago Union brought this saying to me that housing is health. And that's such an important saying, because it really, you know, it does take care of a lot of things that people deal with on the streets that, you know, and I'm talking about water usage. I'm talking about bathroom access. I'm talking about hygiene. I'm talking about like privacy, like a warm place to sleep. So, you know, we're the connection of the struggle is very, you know, it's very close, because when we think about people like in receiving, you know, we have a large amount of undocumented people here too, who rely on doing leases that are like kind of month to month and not relying on, you know, a legal lease in that nature. And individual landlords and even property managers will house folks like that, but they do it with manipulation. You know, then folks who are undocumented or who may be, you know, in trouble with the law, things of that nature, who still need housing, they're going to experience retaliation because they don't have that security. So we're seeing, even the state respond to squatters' rights and building codes and stuff like that. And it's really important now that we're building the actual response to it. I think the most important thing that Chicago is building right now is the community defense response to it. The different kinds of organizations that we've seen support eviction defense has been really illuminating. And the survival networks that come with the housing networks, and we're talking about the mutual aids, we're talking about people doing the driving, we're talking about people doing storage food, clothes, stuff for kids and things of that nature. We saw it arise out of the pandemic. And of course, this is something that, people of color and Black people and Indigenous people have been doing forever. But now we've all kind of, a lot of people have come together and started doing mutual aid and really started kind of mimicking survival programs. And now we're kind of getting into this part of it, which is like the organization of how do we not only survive, but how do we create the alternative systems to make sure that this doesn't keep happening, because we can see the vacancies, and also to connect the struggle so we all have secure, long-term, stable housing.
Amen. Well said, Jess. Thank you. So that's what we're here to talk about. How can we work together? How can we fight for housing to actually become a human right? And I'm really glad to see that Sarah Menifee is just joining the Zoom call now from San Francisco. We're looking forward to bringing in everyone who is on the Zoom call. And if you have comments on the Facebook, you can put the comments in, and we'll integrate them into the conversation as we can. So wonderful. Welcome, Sarah Menifee, by the way. So we're gonna start by introducing Bonnie Contreras for our three organizations here. People are speaking as themselves, and also, we want to hear a little bit about these organizations. What are these organizations? Maybe a little bit about their history, and how are they each working, in response to this crisis? What are they all doing, so that we can start to see the bigger picture of how we can bring that work together? So it's my honor to introduce the interim president of the interim executive board, of which I am also a part of, the Chicago Union of the Homeless, Miss Bonnie Contreras. And we want to ask you, Bonnie, to just tell us a little bit about the Homeless Union, what it is, why it was formed, and what we're doing.
Okay. Well, I want to start with why the Homeless Union was started. Thank you guys for allowing me to speak. The Homeless Union was formed because, one, it's not many organizations out here that really deals with homeless people. So Adam, myself, and Jess, and a couple of other people, we decided that it's time that we get out here and help the homeless people the way they're supposed to be helped. That's why we formed the Homeless Union, to help the homeless, because it seems like the world has really just walked past us every day, or just look at us or say something ignorant out of their mouths. And that's what we do not. We, as a union, we go out and we inform the people about the trainings that we do. We train each and every board member on how to do their job effectively. So when we go out there into the world to inform the people about our union, they know how to do it and how to, get themselves. I'm sorry, get themselves together, because by me being a leader of the union and homeless is distraughting, because I'm very grateful for the union, because 4 years ago, before I even became homeless, I knew it wasn't enough help out here for us. And now that I'm a part of a union that really helps the people, I am very grateful. And what was the other question, Adam?
Well, that's great, Bonnie. Maybe a little bit about what we're doing, and just for context, everyone, we just started this union in late October, so it's very new. But maybe you can tell folks a little bit about the winter offensive, what we've been doing over the last few months.
Okay. Well, that was the end of the part one of the first question. what we've been doing over the winter offensive is, one, we went out and we talked, we informed, we did a memorial for the deceased of the homeless that was out here, like Wayne Warren, who was a veteran and was put out of Pacific Guard missions because of his innocity, because he kept urinating on himself instead of them getting help. We weren't able to get him help at the time because we wasn't in union at the moment. So he passed away out in the cold. And then we've been out passing out, having people sign our petition, helping people read our union statement and talking to them, find out what they want from a union like us. What do they need as a people? And then we also we went downtown to the Daily Center. We gave the petition to the mayor and we emailed it, I think, to the mayor and the governor. So far, we didn't get that done. And then we've been following up with the people that we signed up for housing at 10 South Kedzie. We went down there and we did an action down there. And we just recently did for Martin Luther King birthday, a Cabrini Green action. We helped sign up people out there for housing, talk to the people out there about our union. And we've been doing awesome work. I'm so proud of our union because I never see the people that's willing to go out in the cold, especially on Christmas Eve. Me, myself, Adam, and Sergeant at Arms Felipe, we was out there with the homeless feeding them, and then we not just long did we feed the homeless, we redistribute the food that was left over that did nobody use or want, and we was giving back, and that's what made me so proud of being a part of this union because we're not just takers. Homeless people are not just takers, we're givers too. We give more than we have for ourselves because we want the world to know that we are people just like you are. Except you're gonna keep looking down on us. I'm sorry.
Don't cry.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
Mommy,
I'm sorry.
mommy, take your time. Take your time.
I'm just tired. I'm just tired.
Listen, look at me. Look at me. Breathe. Just breathe. Okay? Calm down. You're fine. It's emotional. You're passionate about. It's okay.
There's nothing wrong with
Don't
feeling your
open your mouth.
feelings, Bonnie. It's important. It's telling the story too.
Yeah,
You're okay.
I was tired today too. You're doing great, Bonnie.
Thank you. It's just because I see how hard Adam and Jess and the other people and you guys go out here beyond yourself to find people like you. I'm sorry.
Mama, you're overwhelming yourself. Do you want to take a break and come back to it?
Mm-mm.
You need to calm down.
I'm coming down. I'm coming down.
You want to take a hit?
It's all right.
You need a hug?
It's just to find people to come out and help you and want to help you, not because they have to. Because while I was out in the city of Roosevelt display, millions of people that I was just sitting outside my tent in my wheelchair, and a lady rode past with her daughter and slowed down right there in front of my tent, told her, "Look at the monkeys." I got so angry with the lady, I started cussing, and I forgot that it was a baby in the car because I felt bad because you're informing your child the wrong way. We're not monkeys, we're not animals, we're not none of that. Because we are here, that doesn't mean that. And to find people like you guys that's willing to help us by any means necessary, that's a blessing for me. One, I'm disabled because I was hit by a car 4 years ago, but I'm alive. And even it's very depressing because the way the world look at us as people, they care more about a dog or a cat than us. We ask somebody for some food or some change, get a job, you slop. If you teach me, I wasn't taught to work, even though I'm grateful for my 15 years of nursing experience and being a nurse for 15 years. But when I got hit by that car, everything was took from me. And that's what I remember as I was telling my kids, the government can take everything from you, your job, your money, your house. But what they can't take is what you learn. And what I learned the most about this union is that we are for the people, not we are the people. We are for the people in order. We're going to show the world how to be a more perfect union because we're not united. I'm so tired of being divided. And now that I'm finally accepted with this union, that's why I say it's my baby, because it's hard being out here homeless and everybody that you see, even people that you don't know, say negative things about you. It's bad enough your family down you, but then to find out other people how the world actually think homeless people are, it's a shame. And I'm very, very so happy to be a part of this union because I have a people that's around me that are for the people. And I want to thank you guys for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Bonnie. And thank you for being real, for really letting yourself feel your feelings and speaking from the heart. I think this is the kind of space that I want to share with other folks in the movement. You know, that we need to be able to talk from the heart, from the gut. You know, because this is life or death, and it's no small thing what we've asked of Bonnie to take on a position, leading meetings, you know, running a new union of the homeless while still currently living in homelessness herself. Um, and I can't emphasize that enough, how grateful we are for your example also. And she mentioned several key points, that what we've been doing, going through the legal existing means of getting people housed, which are um, uh, so slow. I don't have the numbers actually off the top of my head, but um, just to give you a sense, our first action was going to 10 South Kedzie, and they have skilled assessors there at the city services center that are run by churches, Franciscan ministries, and used to be run by Catholic charities. And they have to be certified through this one nonprofit, All Chicago, Making Homelessness History, in order to do something called a coordinated entry system assessment to enter your name into something called the Homeless Management Information System, which is a separate process from the regular Chicago Housing Authority application that can move you up on the wait list, so that instead of an average time of maybe 10 to 20 years on the wait list, not even joking, you have an average time of maybe if you're lucky, you're in like less than 4 years. And we have seen people who are good at this assessment getting people housed within 4 months or sooner. It is possible, and we have some volunteer service providers that work with the union, and we go out, and I think our volunteer service providers are even more effective than a lot of the ones who are sitting behind desks getting paid to do it, frankly. But even with that, we've I think signed up, what is it, Jess? If someone has the numbers, you can tell me, but dozens of people this winter, you know, over 100 for sure, possibly into the 200s, and maybe a handful of them, 5, 6, or 7 at most, have so far been matched with housing. And we're talking about 86,000 people in Chicago living in homelessness. Just
Only 10%, Adam, remember? Through the housing system, only 10%.
Only 10%, and only 10 people per day is what they told us. Not the actual workers who work the system, but their higher ups at 10 South Kedzie told us that they can only assess on average 10 people per day, just to give you an idea. And so we are also opening up squats and doing other things, working with groups like Chicago Tenants Movement, who we're going to hear from next, and others. Just to add to what Bonnie said, but she also mentioned the petition, which we shared in the Zoom call. We should share it on the Facebook too. bit.ly/CUH petition, demanding immediate permanent housing and mental and physical health care for everyone at the city, county, and state level. That's our human rights petition, which we've been working on this winter. Thank you, Bonnie. Did you want to add anything else? Yeah, before we pass it on. Go for it, Bonnie. Yeah.
Like you just said, the movements, the actions, like when we went down to 10 South Kedzie, I went in that building to actually just to use the bathroom. One of the security guards was like, well, you know, you can't do all this. I said, the only thing I want to do is use the bathroom. Besides, I want information. Like my treasurer just walked up out of here and asked you guys, could you give me the information? I didn't get no information. And that was the sad part about it. I'm grateful that the insight that we had, they gave us the information that we need 10 people a day. but it still didn't work because 10 more people that I sent personally, my sister and her kids, they went down there and they was like, well, they told us ain't no 10 people a day. You got to have a certain referral. And I'm like, that ain't what they told us, but it is what it is. And I'm just grateful to be able to put my voice out there and let the world know the world system that we live in, this democracy, Republican, whatever the hell they want to call it, world is full of shit, period.
Amen. Well said, Bonnie. Yes, thank you. We got some good comments coming in the chat. Gloria says HUD is a bureaucracy. Continuum of care only manages homelessness, not working on ending and preventing it. Exactly. So that is where CUH comes in, Chicago Union of the Homeless. You know, an organization led by and for the homeless to end homelessness. And with that, we're pretty much right on time on our schedule here. We'll turn to John next from Chicago Tenants Movement, or CTM, so we can all learn the acronyms. I'm gonna take one deep breath here.
I took that with you. That felt great. Thanks for the invitation.
Always good. And so, John, yeah, tell us just a little bit. You can introduce yourself and about Chicago, what Chicago Tenants Movement is, why it was formed, and what are some of the various problems facing tenants that you are organizing around.
Definitely. All right. Well, thanks for the invitation, Adam. Thanks everyone for having me. It's so powerful also to be able to hear Bonnie speak. So thank you, Bonnie. Yeah, Chicago Union of the Homeless is so lucky to have such an inspiring and courageous voice at the helm. So thanks again for sharing, Bonnie. And I feel really honored to be just a part of a people's movement for liberation alongside you and everyone on this call. And I want to share, I shared this at a planning meeting, but it's worth sharing. I was lucky enough to be at this first meeting kind of by just like a happy accident at just a coffee shop about a year ago with Joe Peary and Tom Gordon, when there was a conversation where it was decided at this table that the need to refound the Chicago Union of the Homeless. And it was right when I was really getting my start setting off on my own to organize with tenants and buildings in Uptown. And here we are a year later, and both of our movements have blossomed despite the crisis. So it's really powerful to be here and to be able to reflect a little bit on how much we've accomplished together. I'll just talk a little bit about Chicago Tenants Movement, what our work has looked like, the kinds of conditions that tenants are facing. And then I'll speak a little bit because I know that this is a LRNA event, League of Revolutionaries for a New America. So I'll speak for a couple minutes too about the revolutionary perspective, what we see the revolutionary potential of this movement being in practical terms. But simply, Chicago Tenants Movement has its roots in networks of existing organizations before the pandemic, specifically a few tenants organizations, and then just a range of activists and community organizations that first came together in late March and early April around a petition for a rent freeze. And this petition for a rent freeze, cancel rent, gathered more than 18,000 signatures, which I think is important because it shows just how many people are ready to cancel rent, which is almost like that's a revolutionary demand in itself. And there are 18,000 people who were ready to ask for that in April. I mean, and that is what it's around that demand that this network came together in the first place. Originally, just to figure out, okay, how are we gonna get in touch with these 18,000 people? Like, this is a lot of work, but there's a movement here if it can be organized. So these organizations, a couple of the pre-existing tenants organizations were Autonomous Tenants Union, Tenants United, a Northside Tenant Network, and then also many community organizations in the given neighborhoods throughout the city. So after sharing information and helping each other get tenant campaigns up and running in our neighborhoods, a Chicago Tenants Movement finally came together as a movement around, not with a constitution or bylaws, because so far we still really value our autonomous and horizontal character. While there are individuals who are associated with nonprofits, the movement is still a grassroots social movement, and remains, and that's a real value. So we united not around a constitution and not around a board of directors, but instead around principles of unity. So I'm just going to share those to show what we're about and what is the basic unity that everyone shares. So the first principle is housing is a human right. We believe, of course, that every human has the inherent right to shelter. And of course, that housing should not be a commodity. And we're fighting to return housing to being a human right like it should be. People power and direct democracy are our best weapons in this fight and our path towards social transformation. So that means that we're trying to build new democratic organizations which encapsulate people's power and ensuring that our movement remains democratic, which means that those affected are the ones who decide, right? Third principle is solidarity and mutual aid. We view these principles as how we take care of each other and how we are going to grow our movement, you know, by being in, like, every tenant struggling is in solidarity with every other tenant struggling, and the tenants movement as a whole in solidarity with every other autonomous people's movement for liberation. And then finally, liberation and self-determination as the final point. By that, we mean that we do have a holistic vision for social transformation within our communities and beyond. We see that tenants struggle as one front in an overall struggle for people's collective liberation. So within the bounds of our movement, that also means that we fight against all forms of oppression within our spaces, right? You know, we're not going to say like, oh, well, this is just a housing movement. This issue isn't technically about housing, so take it somewhere else. Like, no, like within a Chicago tenants movement space, we really see this as a place where everyone's liberation from every form of oppression is at stake. So that's kind of like what we're about. Can I just do a time? How much time do I have?
I'm not actually keeping time. I think you're good.
Okay, cool. So to speak a little more practically, just about like the way the Chicago tenants movement is working right now, Chicago tenants movement is set up by regional hub. So we've got 3 hubs, which are kind of like locals or branches, but we call them hubs because they're semi-open. You know, we are inviting organizations of all kinds in those areas to come and get involved in these organizing hubs. So it's in the Northeast, Northwest, and the South Side. So these hubs unite local community organizations, individual volunteers, and of course, tenants, all kinds of tenants. And I like to think of these hubs as local headquarters of tenant struggle. So this is where local struggles are being coordinated, support needs are being figured out, and hubs meet regularly as a space for all tenants are invited to come and participate. And we have everything from legal aid, advice and counseling to more closed, secure spaces for coordinating campaigns on a regular basis. So like I say, these hubs are like the regional headquarters for pushing the tenants movement further and deepening the tenants movement's roots in the neighborhood. But beyond these hubs, we also have a number of like citywide activities or committees. So we have a hotline. Maybe you've seen our flyers. We're trying to hit every block that we can, and regularly with a hotline number. We have upwards of 40 or 50 volunteers who man the hotline. When tenants call, they're referred to the hub so they can get involved locally and talk to tenants in their community who can help them to organize alongside them. We also have a lockout response team. So this is some more like veteran organizers that are able to show up in a rapid response way in case there's a tenant who's facing an illegal eviction or lockout. We also have, legal aid as well. We don't do legal aid, but we have the connections with the legal aid, organizations, so that we can connect tenants with that, and also be in solidarity with the tenants as they navigate the, very difficult and very taxing process of, going the legal route. So we basically help tenants pursue both legal strategy and an organizing strategy at the same time. And then finally, of course, we also have, communications and outreach on social media, and also old-fashioned, pounding the pavement, handing out flyers, and then the hubs, where the organizing is happening. So I'll talk a little bit more about the organizing that's happening at the hub level, because that's what I'm personally participating in. So I'm on the Northeast Organizing Committee. And it's really through these organizing committees that we've spoken to hundreds of tenants, supported dozens of tenants in struggle. And from that experience, we've learned firsthand about how exactly tenants are experiencing this crisis and the conditions that tenants find themselves in. And I think it's important to note, of course we know this, but it's important to restate exactly the character of this crisis. Its roots aren't in the pandemic, right? The pandemic is kind of like the effective final cause, like the straw that breaks the camel's back, but it's not the root. I mean, the root is the structure of ownership of resources in the society, which means that this crisis is not being perpetrated by a virus, is being perpetrated by real people. And that means centering landlords and their responsibility for tenants' oppression. So we find that tenants face a wide range of oppressive conditions, and beyond just tenants losing jobs and not being able to pay, right? So we have landlords withholding repairs, harassing and bullying tenants, slapping tenants with bogus fees and charges, and generally just creating oppressive conditions for tenants. And this is part of a wider program of neighborhood gentrification. Like, all of these instances are the basic unit of tenant oppression, which is like the basic cog in the machine of like neighborhood cleansing of like poor and working class people. So we're learning firsthand, like, this is how it's happening, and it's happening on a mass scale. But we're also learning how tenants can fight back against this. And I really think that we're like making some new discoveries here. So like, we've learned that to fight this, tenants need organizations of their own, many organizations of their own. Like, every tenant in every building, tenants need organizations in their own building, autonomous from the nonprofit industrial complex, and grounded in principles of solidarity, mutual aid, and democracy. And the building block for these organizations are, of course, the tenants themselves, whose rights, and the few legal rights that the tenants do have, are being violated. So our task as a movement is to transform these rights violations from just a rights violation to an active struggle, and then transform it from an active struggle to a collective struggle that's involving the neighbors, that's involving the community. And here too, I think, and I'm almost done, I just have like another couple minutes, but just to like speak quickly about like the revolutionary standpoint, what we see is like the revolutionary potential for this movement. And here I just want to speak practically in concrete terms, because like revolution is a practical and concrete question in our time. So we've learned that like over the course of tenant struggles, like tenants have the most leverage when they build a new organization of their own, like a tenant association in the building or a tenant union under the landlord, which can get other neighbors involved who all share the same relationship with landlords. So practicing solidarity and mutual aid with neighbors is how tenants build power against landlords, new power that wasn't there before, capable of improving tenants' lives in tangible ways that they play an active part in. No one is doing it for them on their behalf. It's tenants who are the subject of the transformation of relations of power. So this is a really empowering experience. It's incredibly politicizing. And we're watching tenants who have never been involved in a political movement before become leaders of organizations that they've created and become revolutionary leaders, or like we're watching people move onto that trajectory. And people are learning for themselves firsthand in a visceral way the injustice of our current system. But more importantly, people are waking up to the power that they have to change things through collective action. So by struggling against landlord oppression, building community while improving conditions, tenant unions prove that tenants and ordinary people have the power to manage our own housing and determine for ourselves the future of our neighborhoods. Organized according to principles of participatory democracy, which just means that those most affected decide. Tenant unions have already sent representatives to meet together, compare experiences, and collectively strategize and communicate their needs to the rest of the tenants movement. And here we see already the seeds of tenant councils, where tenant unions unite and send their representatives from across buildings to plan together how we can expand and grow tenant power in our neighborhoods. And these tenant councils, we really believe are the seed of a new kind of people's institution, which is capable of returning control of housing to the people, which of course, if we can grow our movement and continue to spread tenant unions to every building and councils to every neighborhood. So yeah, going forward, what are the implications for this vision on our strategy today? How can our movement support each other? So far, the bulk of Chicago tenants movement work has been fighting alongside housed tenants, but it's important to note that a tenant is anyone who doesn't have secure housing. And I know that there's already been efforts to like try to collaborate with Chicago Union of the Homeless, which gives me a lot of hope. And I'm really looking forward to finding more opportunities. As our unions and councils grow, there will be more opportunity to work together around actions and initiatives that will grow our unity in an organic way. And I'm really excited and hopeful about that potential. Are we going to see a Chicago People's Housing Council or a Chicago People's Defense Committee to help us coordinate actions across these fronts of struggle? I don't know. I don't know if anyone knows like what the future will hold, but as bleak as the crisis is, I personally have become very, very hopeful about the potential for our movement based on what I've seen. And so, yeah, thanks for letting me share the Chicago tenants movement perspective. And yeah, thank you.
Amen. Thank you, John. Thank you for all of that. From the details to the big ideas and visions, which you articulated so well. Thank you. Our last speaker before we kind of move on to the next part of our program here is Jess. Jess, you can just respond to what you've heard and also let us know, as a member of Autonomous Tenants Union, ATU, what role do you see an organization like Autonomous Tenants Union playing in the fight for tenants' rights, and also in, finding practical ways to work together with other tenants more, as John just said?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, John. That was really something. And also we met a long time ago, also talking about squats. So I love all this connection that we're all having. Chicago's a real small town for activists, I think. I want to speak a little bit to what John said at a hyper-localization level, because Autonomous Tenant Union is a chapter of a national network in Albany Park. And I also want to speak to something that John said too about, the tenants are the power, the people are the power. I had literally just listened to the Black Autonomy podcast right before I got on here. And that's like one of the things that is said. It's just like, we bring the programs, but the people are the ones who affect change. The people are the ones who change the world. You know what I mean? Like, even, us as a person who has like certain feelings or like, we know the system is wrong. it's just one person. Like we have to build that collective power, and autonomous tenant union, I think does it really well. You know, their core structure is around the asamblea. So like asamblea is the people's assembly, which is like the, you know, the core thing of it. So they're really based on organizing around literally hearing everyone out who organizes with them. And this is the organizers from ATU, folks who live in the Albemarle Park area who are part of different organizations, and tenants. They're so great at their mutual aid model, where it's like, you know, there is a lot of survival work, even in tenant unions, kind of like what John was saying, where it is kind of an unequal exchange, and there is a lot more. Sometimes there is aspects of charity, but autonomous tenant union does an amazing job of creating the conditions to create people who can come into tenant power, and not just come into tenant power, but their own power, by doing this beautiful model around the asamblea, where they have childcare, where they have translators in real time. So if you are a Spanish speaker, you have an earpiece and somebody is walking around the room and translating in real time. And then you have food there as well. Political education is also at the core of it. One of the first meetings that I went to in person was, they have like a space too, an in-person space, you know, pre-pandemic times, y'all. And we were talking about gentrification, and we all kind of just talked about it. And then we all kind of talked about how we knew it through our own experience. So tenant unions are really good at creating kind of what John was speaking to, the empowerment, one, that we're not alone, which most things that are successfully done in human nature are done in cooperative ways. And so like we need to use our own, not like biology, not in a eugenics way, but our own systems of how we have collectively built power for years, and apply that to our current situation in modern times with technology, with everything that's going on, and make it accessible as possible. And the only way that we've been able to do that through tenant unions is through hyperlocalization, through just like what John was saying. You go to a building, somebody comes to you, they're like, I'm having these problems. They feel alone. They haven't talked to their neighbors yet, because the system that they created is that we're not supposed to complain about these things. We're not supposed to have this power. So when we invite them to a meeting, they see that other tenants have joined, they see that other people are kind of organizing their own stuff, and then they're not alone. And then they show up, you know, when landlords are acting a certain way, and we all learn together. And I think that's one of the things that's really important about grassroots organizations, tenant unions itself that are really localized, is that we learn together. When you create hierarchy, even in the learning process, which I think Asamblea actually takes away, you create already a dynamic. And ATU, Autonomous Tenant Unions, is really good at creating this, like, we are all tenants, we are all experiences, let's work this together. So the way that I see different organizations and tenant unions working together, besides what, you know, creating something like the Chicago Tenants Movement, is kind of the stuff that we were talking about. It's like, all these connections between us talking about the struggle. We're actually doing it right now. This is exactly a prime example of that. How do we come together? We meet each other where we're at. And I think that we're all getting our gearings on how to do that. You know, CTM has been able to now expand into, you know, including houseless folks. And like, now we are starting to, as a Chicago unit, homeless union, going to eviction defense. And that's how we build that. And it's so important. And one last thing I want to talk about is, like, I just want to hype this up really fast, and I could do it later too, but Good Kids Mad City actually just had an eviction defense not that long ago on the south side. And the tenant that they were supporting was actually really badly, abusively retaliated by their landlord. And not only did they call for eviction defense, they called for that building to be let go by that crooked scumlord, and they asked it to be given directly to the tenants. That's 3 steps of revolutionary power in one action. That is what we should be doing.
Nice. Yes, thank you, Jess. I love that. So much. I'm so excited to jump into the conversation, which is the next part. But before we jump in, we're gonna take another big breath, and we're actually going to get to hear a poem from Daniel Brooks. So, Daniel, take it away.
Hey everybody, I'm grateful to be here, and thank you to all of our moderators and our speakers. We appreciate y'all, and thank you for everybody for coming out. One of the themes that I am seeing here is
Hey, comrade, can you put the headphones on? Because it's hard to hear you.
okay.
Thank you.
Let me do that. All right.
Sorry.
No, thank you for
No
interrupting, Jesus. We want to hear the poem.
I know it's a really great poem. I'm familiar with that. So I'm like, oh no, this won't do, brother.
Let's
Put
do
the
it right.
headphones on.
Sorry, when we were doing the sound check, I thought I heard someone's voice not coming through quite clearly, but I wasn't sure who it was, and I guess it was Daniel.
So I just learned about this group, the Good Kids Mad City, and I started following them on Twitter. That I mean, when we ask questions, I like to know more about this organization, you know. So is he going and coming back? Oh my gosh, now I feel bad.
There he is.
Oh yay! Welcome back.
Right. How does my voice sound now?
Much better.
Much less choppy, I would imagine. Hello, everybody. I'm glad you guys came out. Shout out to all of our moderators and our speakers as well. I'm glad to see everyone. One of the themes that I'm seeing from all of our speakers is that we're very much daring to take back what's ours or what's the people's, right? The gentrified neighborhoods that we're taking with the help of lawmakers and nonprofits and real estate investors. They took something away from working class people, from Black folks, from brown folks, from the people in general. So that's kind of a theme of this poem as well. It's called The Fourth, and I wrote it on July 4th, kind of conflicted about the holiday, so to speak. So what to say to the people whose history, whose existence erased at every opportunity. Centuries of terror, exiled to desolate places. What to say to the people, their will generationally shattered like car windows at the moment of impact. I reach for letter magnets on the refrigerator, searching for the right words. But what does Lady Liberty have to say to the people? What does this nation have to say for itself? And when will it give back all that it has taken?
Mm. Amen. Thank you, Daniel.
Beautiful, Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that was just right as kind of like a segue and kind of portal into the conversation. I'm also a poet, and I hate when people belittle poetry by using words like segue, which I just did. So I mean that in the best possible sense, or anyway, okay. Yeah, thank you for getting right to the heart of things with that beautiful poem. And so me and Jess will ask a few questions, maybe follow-up questions to start the dialogue for our moderators, and then we just want to throw it wide open for folks on the Zoom call and on the Facebook to participate. And that's basically the rest of our time. We have an hour, so we're doing pretty good.
Hey, comrade, just to clarify, are we using Stack when people want to speak?
Yeah, sure. I guess between me and Jess, and you also, Jesus, on the chat, we can monitor Stack. People can, well, we'll get to that part, because first we have a few questions for the moderators, and to kind of save time and prioritize the discussion with the full group, I'm gonna combine the first two questions into like one larger question, and our moderators can kind of take one or both. They're kind of related, so I just put them in the chat. So this is for Bonnie, Jess, and John. What to you are some of the most inspiring or exciting examples of organized struggle from the last year or so, from the work that you have been involved in or other work within the housing justice movement? We've already heard a lot about this, including the eviction defense from Good Kids Mad City, which we could talk more about, and other things. And the second question, which is kind of related, is does the current crisis create opportunities for tenants and houseless folks to move from the defensive to the offensive? You know, from scattered struggles against individual landlords to a more united political struggle? If so, how? And can you share some examples of what this looks like? So anyone can start from our speakers.
I would like to start.
Go for it, Bonnie.
To answer both of the questions at one time, what the people need to do, the ones that still being defensive against their landlords, do like they do on 66 and Perry, which was a beautiful, awesome, mad kid city. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but them people showed me exactly what we need to start doing for our people. You don't want to give it to us. You don't want to respect us as a people. One, we're paying you our rent, and you want to be disrespectful. That's not cool. And for them to stand up like they did was an amazing job. That was so exciting for me, because the way the young people, it wasn't the people, the older folks that I was listening to. I listened to the lady that lived there that the incident happened to, but the other tenants that was in the building that was talking, that were younger than her, gave me such an amazing feeling about when we say we houseless but not helpless. That's what that means. They are the perfect example for that, for houseless, not homeless. Call Phil back, because he know I'm on.
Thank you, Bonnie. A
And
little closer to the mic. Yeah.
can you hear me now? What's the second part to the question? Could you
Yes.
read it again, please?
Well, you basically answered the second part. You basically answered both. They're in the chat. What are some of the most exciting examples that you've seen from the last year or so? And yeah, how does the pandemic and the current crisis give us opportunities to move to the offensive? And we have a question from Peter Brown in the chat that's kind of interesting for taking a step back about that. He says, wondering if you've already discussed what is the difference between defensive and offensive when it comes to the housing fight?
Well, from my experience before I became homeless, the defense was when my landlord kept coming with cockamamie crap, knowing that I was paying my rent, he wanted to go constantly build other stuff onto the building. And I jumped on the offense side because I was like, okay, fine, since this is what you want to do, I'm tired of defending myself against this landlord. I wound up going to court, getting an order of protection against him because he was doing some things to the building that wasn't right. And it helped me. It helped me become better by learning how you can shut down your landlord if they're doing something wrong that you feel that's not right in your living space. That's what happened for me. So I enjoyed doing that at that moment.
That's great. Thank you, Bonnie. John or Jess, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I could say something. I can kind of touch on both of those questions quickly. I would say, I think one of the most exciting, well, maybe exciting is not the right word because that's not exactly like adrenaline. It's more like most heartening or inspiring to see is the one building campaign that I've been involved with for a while, since just before the pandemic actually, is a large Section 8 building in Uptown. And one of the things that I've seen firsthand proved by this campaign is that this is a very, very diverse building. It's with many immigrants from different ethnic and national backgrounds, and actually a history of tension between groups, a history of stereotyping and intergroup distrust. And we've seen through organizing real organic solidarity built beginning just through individual relationships. And it's transforming the culture of the building in a way that hasn't been seen before. So to me, this is so heartening because it really proves that, I don't know, that like revolutionary idea that like through radical solidarity, we can cut through the divisions, which end up just being like revealed for what they are, which is just superficial divisions that we've internalized somehow, that make us think that like certain people from a different place maybe don't care about the community as much as we do or something, you know, whatever it is. But through actually struggling alongside each other, through the practice of having each other's backs and the lived experience, builds organic trust, which just has given me so much hope that we can cut through a lot of the divisions which have separated us and which have kept us from uniting in the past. So it really does seem like solidarity forged through struggle does build real people's unity, and we're seeing that every day in the tenants movement. And then finally, I will just like comment on the defensive to offensive, and it's actually good to ask that clarifying question, Peter, and the comments you asked, because I think it does look different depending on the movement and the context. So one example from the tenants movement would be, you know, there's a lot of defense, which is making sure that tenants whose rights are being violated get the support they need to know, you know, how to respond to that. Going on the offense would be, then we look at that landlord's properties and hatch a plan to organize all of that landlord's buildings, you know, and suddenly like take the fight back to the landlord. So suddenly the landlord is getting peppered with demands and actions. And I do believe that this is a time where we can push for more. And actually, like even with this change in administration too, I think that the tide may be turning, and that like if we only get what we're organized to take, right? But right now, what we push for, I think that it's probably an opportune moment to really be ambitious with what we're asking for, and really, you know, not be afraid to, you know, take the fight like to its logical conclusion, right? As far as we can take it. So exactly, yeah, time to be audacious. But those are my thoughts on these questions. So they're good questions. Thanks for coming up with them.
Yeah, I love this. I love this. I also feel like what Bonnie spoke to a little bit about the Good Kids Mad City thing, but I was really impacted by our December 10th event where we were outside of the Chicago Union of the Homeless outside 10 South Kedzie, which is, if folks don't know, that's like where people get emergency shelter. And that's like the hub of getting a referral to stay in shelters, because some shelters require that you get a referral. And it's a piece of paper that usually came from the Catholic Charities through like a process where they, you know, make sure to have all the detail of their financial stuff. It's switching over to the Salvation Army now. It's been for 30 days. We'll see how that goes. But it was awesome because we had brought more people there, and if they really wanted to fill all those vacancies, they could have done it right then. We gave them everything for it. We brought them the people, we brought them bus cards, we brought food, we brought music, we brought political education, we brought clothes, we brought everything for the state to be able, we did all their work for them. You know what I mean? Like, and they still couldn't come through. Not only because they still couldn't come through, they still couldn't tell us why the system's set up this way, right? Why we only can interview 10 people, why it's not faster, why they don't have more employees. And we held it down. Like Kizzy Young and Ryan Spangler from Heartland Alliance, and Kizzy Young is from, what organization is she from, Adam?
It's it's not officially founded yet. I think it's Star Services or something like
right,
that.
through her own nonprofit, through her housing nonprofit, they were able to do applications and sign up so much people, and it's just two of them. It's just two of them grinding, and it's just like there was the same amount of people in office that had ventilation and air and heater and like coffee and everything. So it's like we know how to do what we need, and it was so reaffirming that the people know what they need, and we know what we need, and when we come together, we can provide it. The barrier, I think, is like the state, you know what I mean? Like them holding on to us, them not telling us why they can't have more employees. They're not telling us, because, and then I think another part of that was also the, what's it called? The Cabrini Green event. Although we didn't have community engagement like I think we wanted, the fact that we could bring in stuff from CTM. So CTM helped us kind of go into the South Side and not only just talk about housing, but also provide resources. So like we're coming together, we're talking about, we already like work together. So like the people who do have housing and who are like, we're providing that resource too, because it's about all of us. So I think that as long as we can provide something for all of us, and we are kind of talking about how to not only work together, but to work through conflict and through get out of survival, I think that's what helps. Because when I think about Cabrini and I think about December 10th, I think about how we fed people, how we provided them resources, clothing, a hub for like different connections and things like that. Somebody came up to me and they're like, I want housing, but I'm on parole. What does that mean? So it's just like, it just gave me more ideas. I'm like, well, as long as we talk to the people and we show up, they will tell us what we need and we know how to move forward. I just can't express how much that it's been so educational just being in these events and talking to the people who are experiencing the struggles to really tell us like everybody who's experiencing struggle is providing us all the tools to move forward into liberation.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Jess. I see you, Bonnie, on Stack. I also just want to show that Patrick posted a link to our Twitter page where we gave an overview of the Chicago Union of the Homeless event at Cabrini Green on the near west side on Martin Luther King Day. So Rand, if you're able to copy that into the Facebook or Lou or someone can, that would be good. But yes, Bonnie, please.
The awesome part about that at the end, Patrick did an interview with me for our Facebook Live or whichever social media we are part of. And it helped me so much by being able to talk around the people that was actually going through this with the landlord, and then to come to find out that the landlord was in the building at the time we were doing the interview. It gave me more power because it let me know he's like the government. They're scared to come and face the problem, but you the main problem, but you're scared to come to help solve the solution. And that was an amazing feeling for me to have the people like you guys help me stand our ground as a union and face whatever problem that we come up. And if we can't come up with a solution, my solution is we gonna start taking our houses back. We gonna take CHA, HUD, all them. They gonna get mad as hell at the CUH because they gonna take over everything. You keep saying in your word, do this, we gonna do that. You haven't did. I'm tired of listening to the lies. So since they want to keep lying to us, guess what? They want to call us criminals anyway. We might as well do the criminal stuff. Take what you gave, what you have for us that you weren't willing to give to us. So we're gonna take it. This year, we're taking everything that the government ain't got nailed down. How about that?
Beautiful. Amen, Bonnie. Thank you. And that really speaks to the questions and on such a important level directly. I'm just so grateful for this conversation so far. I'm going to share my last question here, and then maybe we can call on Kathy too as kind of the first question as we start to open this up. But my last question for the moderators is, Bonnie kind of hinted at it or started it right now. What do you think are some of the next steps for bringing the work of these various organizations together around the common struggle for housing as a human right, and for building that movement and for making housing a human right? But maybe Kathy's question is more direct to what we've just heard Jess and Bonnie and John say. So we can start taking questions now, I think, from folks in the Zoom room and on Facebook. Kathy, you have the floor.
Hi, actually, it's Chris. Can you hear me?
Oh yes, Kathy and Chris. Sorry. Go for it, Chris. Yeah.
just not a question, but just a brief greeting. Kathy and I are from Los Angeles, and we're just learning so much from this discussion. And anytime any one of you want to speak to our group in Los Angeles, please do. In Los Angeles, 67% of the housing is corporate owned. Close to 30% of the housing is vacant. The form of organization we're developing in this city is called Services Not Sweeps. It's a coalition of 47 different groups, including providers. But I'll just stop there. I'm just learning so much. Thank you, League of Revolutionaries, for
sure. Thank you, Chris. And yeah, no, we have some wonderful folks who I hope get in the conversation at some point on the call, including members of the original Homeless Union from Oakland. Samuel is on the call, and we have Sarah Menifee from San Francisco, and folks from Oakland, and as we just heard, Los Angeles. So I'm excited. And I see Hesu put herself on stack. But I want to check in with our speakers first. If you want to take that that last question that I asked, what do you think are some of the next steps for bringing our work together?
I'd like to speak to that. Mass reclamations, or retaking the housing market. I don't want to speak like, you know, we can talk about all this stuff, but like the thing is that the vacancies already exist. We can do it through the legal system. We can like fight all this stuff. But the thing that we've been seeing is that the housing market in Chicago currently is turning HUD housing, which is federal housing that should be available to people everywhere, into REOs, real estate properties so fast, and creating the gentrification thing so fast, and making sure that they, you know, and a lot of these things that they're building are, you know, even like the fast condos that they're building, especially around in the suburbs and outside of Chicagoland, stuff like that, they're not made to last. You know what I mean? Like, we need people to reclaim our neighborhoods because there's schools that have been shut down for a long time. Like, we need our own infrastructures, and for communities to really take ownership of each other, and not feel like, oh, that's not my problem, that's not my family. It's all our problem. It's all our family. Because when it doesn't happen, when we don't show up for eviction defense, when we don't see that somebody's struggling on the street, when we avert our eyes to it, we're pretending that it's not there, and it is there. And what makes it possible for those things to diminish is to confront it and to come together with people, and not work for people, but work with people. So I think the best way is through collective power of re-ownership of the complete housing markets of everywhere.
Man, which is what Bonnie spoke to as well with takeovers, right? Take it back. And yes, that does seem to be inevitable stage of this, right? Bonnie or John? Yeah, go for it.
Now, what was your question again? Because I have to go and stack again to read it.
You can take it however you want, but the question is, what do you think are some next steps for bringing our work together to fight for housing as a human right?
The next step, I believe, is once we figure out everybody's struggle with this issue, we put it together, and like I said, we're gonna stop asking these people, the government, CHA, HUD, we're gonna stop asking them to read our petitions, because they're constantly putting us on the back burner. They just constantly got us on the waiting list. Like I said, I am ready to, I have a bulldozer in front of me. I've been having my bulldozer in front of me since we started this union 3 months and 2 weeks ago. Because I'm tired of being told no. I'm tired of talking to these people like I have common sense. When we talk to them like we got common sense, they're constantly ignoring us. So it's time for us to be a bully. The world want to bully us. Now we finna be a bully. That's where I feel. Tell the organizations we're gonna figure out everything. Once we figure out what they really want to do, we're gonna take this world by storm. Period. Point blank. We're tired of asking. We're tired of being lied to. Every year they constantly say we gonna do. But when it comes down to these damn taxes, they got a whole lot to say. But when it comes down to people, they don't give a damn. So now, since they don't give a damn about us, we're gonna make them give a damn about us. Period. That's where I'm at. I'm gonna tell all the organizations, anybody that's willing to hear me talk, I'm gonna let them know. I'm tired of struggling. I know you tired of struggling. We're all 2.5 seconds from being homeless due to this damn pandemic. Ain't no cure for it. Ain't nobody saying help the homeless. We saying quarantine. How the hell homeless people gonna quarantine? They ain't got nowhere to quarantine at. You can't quarantine when you outside. You can't.
Right.
I'm tired of hearing Mayor Lightfoot, the governor sitting on their asses, eating their steak and potatoes. Fuck that. We going into their houses now, and we're gonna take their steak and potatoes and feed it to the homeless. How about that? I'm tired of that. Every year we come up listening to this bullshit they constantly feeding us, and we constantly sitting down on our hands. It's people out here really need help. Wayne Warren, if he had the help that he needed, he would be here right now today. I'm sorry for going off, but I'm tired. I'm sick and fucking tired of being told no. I'm tired.
That's right.
I know that's right.
Thank you, Bonnie.
That's what I'm gonna tell the organization. Everybody that's connected to something, tell them to call Bonnie Contreras. She gonna tell them, fuck asking, we take it. Period.
All right now.
Speaking my language.
Right.
Yes.
They too.
Yes. Thank you, Bonnie. I don't know how to follow that. I can't think of.
We can just stop. Just kidding.
Samuel, I want to check on you to see if you want to speak. You unmuted yourself. Samuel is one of the original.
No, y'all doing good. I'm listening. Y'all doing very good.
Okay. Cool. I unmuted myself. But when other folks are speaking, you and me both should probably keep ourselves muted just so we can hear other folks. But I did actually like hearing your responses to Bonnie. But just checking in with you, did you want to? Samuel is one of the original members of the National Union of the Homeless in the Oakland chapter from the 80s and 90s, and so he's here in Chicago now. And it's great that you're on the call, Samuel. Do you want to share something about the history of takeovers since we're on the subject of takeovers? Oh, now you are muted. Sorry, now you have to unmute.
That wasn't my fault. I thought he wasn't speaking. Sorry, Samuel. Unmute yourself.
Okay, I got. First, we got to get in the part of the Constitution. See, telling them they breaking it all.
I'm sorry, brother. The audio is so hard to hear. I don't know if there's anything you can do to improve it, but we didn't get a word of that.
Headphones, maybe chatting it out.
Oh.
Type it out.
Try speaking. I don't know. Maybe just a little farther away from the mic, actually.
Or find the sweet spot where the Wi-Fi's at.
But we try one more time, Samuel.
Yuri?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. We have been members, as you say. They don't want to know. Okay. And the Constitution, we change it. They want to make it. Okay. All of this country, all this country. It was no, everybody.
I'm
make
sorry,
it easy.
Samuel.
It's wrong.
I caught half of that.
Thank you.
The citizens have been neglected, y'all. We are children of Israel. We need to stop it. Because we are, I'm going to say I'm 60 bucks back next year. I've been for 4 years. I'm feeling right. It was telling that they don't do nothing. They keep
Thank you, Samuel. I think
It's a scam. It's a scam. Okay. And then that's one thing. Who knows the real estate or wall office real estate? Because housing we got to understand this. You're the house like and then so what we call law. That's it's still talking. And we have to stand back and fight.
I'm sorry, Samuel. The Wi-Fi connection is so bad. It's really impossible.
I got you.
Yeah, but thank you for your testimony.
Yes,
I heard you affirming what Bonnie said. I think I heard a few phrases like
Yeah.
they don't do nothing.
Okay.
Scam. And yeah, thank you for sharing. It doesn't look like Sarah Menifee is on the call anymore, and there's 1312 number who I don't know who that is, but I don't think it's Sherry Hunkala, who we were thinking might also be on the call. At this point, we can open it up to folks in the Zoom and folks on the Facebook. So, Jesus, I believe you put yourself on stack a while ago.
Yeah, did we answer Kathy's question, or did Kathy get to ask her question?
That was Chris.
Oh, right. My bad, Chris. So I was going to respond to something Bonnie said, and she's already focused on this, but this is idea of what is crime? What is criminal? What's criminal is that it takes, there's all these people who need housing and aren't getting it. I don't think it's a crime to get what you need. I know we live in a capitalist system and it protects private property, but you know what? If they're empty houses, fuck it. The homeless people should have them, right? We're having a similar fight with who gets a vaccine. I tell you who they didn't consider. They didn't consider the homeless. You know, they're not even part of those groups. So I mean, I don't think that's criminal at all, Bonnie. And I loved her battle cry. Loved it. I think it empowered a lot of us. And it looks like Jessica is on stack.
Yeah, thank you. I think that what you just said, Sue, is like the best thing ever. What we are experiencing in Chicago and everywhere, honestly, and we really don't talk about it, is the criminalization of survival. Stealing to eat, breaking into house to stay warm. Like, we need to not only take this to, to the community, but to the lawmakers too. If there's a law that we can't start taking over housing, then we need to create it, because we need a way to house people faster. And I think that's one of the things that we need to move away from, is that the world that is now, the way the laws are now, the way housing is now, is wrong. It's wrong, it's corrupt, it's immoral, and we need to change it. We don't need to reform it. We don't need to go into the system and like mash it around. We need to remake it so that it can never exploit people in the way that it's exploiting now. Remake it completely. And I know that people are like, oh, we need survival programs. We can make those. And we need so many different kinds of organizations for it. But I definitely do think that the housing struggle without decriminalization of survival will never work together. We have to work with our comrades who are doing law stuff, things with legal aid and things of that nature.
Right, absolutely. Thank you, Jess. Yeah, I think you just hit on a really key point at the end there too, which is this kind of working both within the law and being prepared to go beyond the law when the law is wrong. I mean, that the higher law of morality is what has guided the revolutionary movements and the people's movements that we are, building off of in our American history, right? And that brings us to this question of housing today and taking it as a matter of life or death, right? And so I see that Sarah is back. I see that you had some internet hiccups. So I don't know where you are, how much of the conversation you lost, Sarah. And it's okay if you want to just listen for a while more. But I did want to ask you to jump in at some point. We're talking now. The conversation has moved in the direction of direct action, housing takeovers, and I think it raises some questions about obstacles and strategies and lessons for this kind of a strategy and tactic, right, or approach to the movement. And so I wanted to give you a chance to, at some point, comment on how the conversation reflects your experience from the movement in San Francisco over the last, Sarah's been involved in the homelessness struggle for 20 years or so. And what are some of those common lessons or strategies that we can identify?
Okay. Shall I start?
If you want to, or you can pass this round since you just got on.
Well, what would you like me to do? You want me to speak now or wait?
We don't have anyone else on stack, so yeah, sure.
Okay, well, I'll be brief. Yeah, I mean, we talk about morality, we talk about homelessness. We're talking about mass suffering in this country. I was very moved to hear Bonnie, because really that's the bottom line, is we have millions of people in the streets, which means dying slowly of this torture of not having a home. I've had very close friends now, just one after another, dying, and people who were in this movement who are still homeless, who have to fight to have the right to be in a tent, who have their tents taken, who get soaked, who get pneumonia. I've been in the homeless movement, not as active right now. It rises and falls, but there was a National Homeless Union in the mid-'80s, 1980s, and I was one of the organizers here in San Francisco of the San Francisco branch. We were very militant. We did a shelter strike. We brought people out of the shelter lines. It was homeless led. It was national. Our saying was, we only get what we are organized to take. And it really, really important that it be led by homeless people. Most recently here, and I've been involved with Homes Not Jails, we did housing takeovers. But I think the question now, especially with this pandemic, of the question of why doesn't this very rich country even do the minimum of keeping its people alive, and why is there so much more homelessness? Why are people facing eviction now? Why do the richest, all the money this government is sitting on is our money. It's gotten it. It doesn't have any other source for money. It's our money, and they're not taking care of the people. And so I think the question of homelessness, you talk about an Achilles heel. The question of homelessness is the Achilles heel of this system. How can it be justified? And so we are on the moral high ground. And this is a revolutionary question, because we're going to have to revolutionize how we even think about human need and human priorities. This system it's got it backwards, and it's going to take care of the people that have everything already. So anyway, I don't want to go off on this. We most recently had an organization, it still exists, called First They Came for the Homeless, which comes out of the Holocaust, because we believe, that's what's going on. It's a genocide by neglect. Was homeless led. We were very active. My co-founder, Mike Zint, who's a great, came out of Golden Gate Park where he was living, came out of homelessness, went through the Occupy experience, which the Occupy San Francisco was really held down by a long time by the people who already knew how to live on the street and sleep on the pavement and know how to fight for their survival. So we did we did actions against the sit-lie law, which was actually started here by our mayor, Gavin Newsom, who is now the governor of California. He's doing some good things. He's saying that homelessness is his priority, but we know what he did as the mayor here. So, the politicians are being forced to say, okay, this is bad, we're gonna have to deal with it, but they deal with it in every way, but actually saying housing is a right. We're gonna make that a priority and we're gonna get everyone in housing. In the meanwhile, people squat. In the meanwhile, they put up their tents and their tents are taken. So, we're talking about mass human suffering here, and we're talking about this as I think it's a new abolition, movement, that we've got to abolish the way property is looked at. That if you don't have enough money for these outrageous rents, and I live in a place with the worst rents in the country, right? So it's no mystery why people are homeless. They can work and work and work 2 jobs and not have enough to rent a place. So they're working out of shelters. I know people who do delivery, live in a tent, live in our tent, right now, because of the pandemic, they said, okay, they're going to put people in hotels. We have all these empty hotels because there's no tourism. They failed to do that. The mayor said it was not tenable, because if you start, people get the idea that, yeah, they could house people, they're going to start really demanding it. And this, I'm very moved to see in the Chicago, the 2nd largest city in the country with the harshest winters imaginable, that you guys are organizing and you're gonna demand what is it's absolute human right. When they say, Mike Zint used to say, when you look at the survival manuals, the first thing they say, seek shelter. It's absolute human #1 priority. And where is our social system? It's corrupt and it's collapsing. And so we're going to have to reconstruct it, and it's going to be from the bottom up. Now, I don't mean to preach, but I'm sorry my internet went down, but what I heard is just so moving, and bless you. And, we really only get what we're organized to take, and you guys are organizing. The young people are just standing up. We've got, a mass march, 26 million people against this Jim Crow system that is designed to divide us up. And the people who are most oppressed have every reason to unify against all those terrible divisions that they set up. And I see that happening, and it's beautiful. And we're going to win this thing. We're on the right side of history. And it's I don't want to sound like Donald Trump, but it's going to be beautiful. It's our beautiful movement. And so just happy to be able to be part of this and just keep on going.
Sarah, I think Jessica had a question for you.
Yes.
Yeah, this question is for Sarah or Samuel or Bonnie. Thank you so much. Like, what you're saying just like really touched me, and like you just kind of going, not just the housing stuff, beyond that, the stuff that affects that. I have 2 questions. My first question is, what do you think is the disconnect between like all these organizations that are doing all this stuff for housing stuff and the homeless stuff? Like, how do you think that is the best way to get connected? And my second question is, how do you all see folks who are doing stuff like rent strikes and general strikes? How do you folks who have been in this struggle, people like that, to get involved? Because when I'm hearing you speaking, kind of like the bringing in all this other stuff, I really do think that, personally, I think we're missing those movements, but what do folks who have been houseless more recently, who are in the struggle for a long time, want us to do when it comes to that? Because I feel like there is a disconnect there, right? The on the ground and then the legal organizing. How do we bring that together?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think those things are brought together by solidarity actions. I think there is somewhat of a disconnect because, people who are struggling to not be evicted, to stay in their housing, that's what they're focused on, right? And the legal aspect of that, I've been less active in the housing struggle, although I'm connected with people who are, than in the homeless organizing, which is a little bit not really very well organized in San Francisco right now, because so many people have been pushed out and and died. A lot of our leaders and it has really affected the movement, the loss and the gentrification here. A lot of people have gone over to the East Bay. A lot of the a lot of the front lines have shifted, but I know that doesn't answer your question. I think as we have discussions like this and bring leaders from the various, or bring fighters from the various fronts, because this is all one movement, right? But people are dug into their particular struggles. They have to be. And I do think that's going to be necessary. And I think it's beginning to happen, where also, like these Moms for Housing in Oakland, where they did a very, very public and very well organized, and they had a good social justice and housing organization behind them. And now one of the people involved with that ran for city council in Oakland and won, a young woman. Right. And so I think these things just from necessity are beginning to come together, but I couldn't give you specifics. I mean, that's one where they, I think housing takeovers also through action show, okay, we're home, we've got homeless families with little children out here on the street, and one of the things that happens is you lose your child through no fault of your own, right? And then there's this empty housing that's been bought up by this basically, profiteers, not by individuals, but by these, they're financializing housing, rental too, terribly. So they're taking housing that's been, evicted from or foreclosed, and they're buying it up, and then they're jacking up the prices of the rents, or letting it sit empty until they can gentrify. And so people are saying, no, we're not going to die in the streets. We're not going to lose our children. But, they've got tenants organizations really behind that. So I think it's beginning to come together organically through action. And I think this really is the key, is people most affected with the rest of their classes support, because we all understand that we're all under the gun, that we're going to have to support each other, build this movement, because our needs aren't separate. Each of us needs to be sheltered. We need to eat. We need healthcare. We need education for our children, and all of those are organic. So the movements need to come together, and this is one great way where it's happening, just people talking to each other. Anyway, I think I'm going on too long, but I hope that's not real specific.
It was wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate the insight.
Yeah, I appreciate what you're doing, really. This new generation of warriors stepping forward. It just gives me a great deal of optimism, you know,
Thank you.
in a dark time.
Amen. Yes, thank you. I'm so glad you're here, Sarah, and that everyone is here. We have some wonderful comments in the chat. Peter is on Stack Next. Feel free to use the chat, especially if you are having trouble speaking, using your microphone because of Wi-Fi or whatever. If you don't see the speech bubble chat icon on your phone or computer or device, you should click the 3 dots that say more, and you can access the chat that way if you're using the Zoom app. I just want to acknowledge first that Bonnie had to hop off the call about 10 minutes ago because she is dealing with intense pain, and so sending some prayers up for her and her healing right now. And I'm glad that she's taking care of herself, and also we'll make sure she gets this recording so she can hear what you, Sarah, and others have said. And also just want to acknowledge that thank you for shouting out Moms for Housing and Councilwoman Carol Fife, who came on a league call hosted by the Oakland chapter, I believe, in November or something, and Bonnie also spoke at that one. So I am so glad that we're all really in movement together across the country. It's very inspiring to see this. Peter, you're next on SEC.
So I really want to appreciate this discussion, and the work you folks are doing in Chicago is very exciting. Shit, I might break down. And I hope I didn't misunderstand Jessica's question about a disconnect. But I understood it to be a disconnect between the housing movement and the unhoused movement. And what we see is that, yes, we have many problems, but we really only have one problem. And the people who are struggling for housing rights and better housing have the same problem as people who are struggling, who are living on the street, which is that housing is a social resource. Everybody needs housing. And your house might be your house and my house might be my house, but nobody has the right to own everybody's house. And that's, people in climate got all fired up about the George Floyd Breonna Taylor rebellion and got involved in that and got involved in the fight in Georgia. And they're asking, well, I did this, I know it's right, but what's the connection between climate and this? The connection with all of them is that these are resources that everybody needs, and they're privately owned, and our goal is to end that. Our goal is for the resources not to be owned, like the indigenous folks say. We're stewards, and when we say housing is a right, we mean we're going to take it away from corporations. Not you and me on this little call, but that's what the people have to do. So enough yelling from me.
Amen. Thank you, Peter.
Wherever we go, we raise that. In whatever field, we raise the issue of property and getting the power to get it.
Amen. Thank you. The floor is open. So I'm looking, feel free to raise your hand. You can do it either find raise hand in the reactions, or if you have an older Zoom, it might be in the participants. Okay, I see Jesus for Stack.
Sorry, I'm trying to be mindful about how many questions I ask, but since I have your ear, so I am in a teachers union for the City College of Chicago, and I'm wondering how we can unite with your struggles, because I feel like our fight for vaccine and safe working conditions is your fight for housing, but how can we support? How can people in general support?
Sorry, Jesus, was that just a practical question about the organizations
Yes, the organizations that are the present.
Okay, wonderful. I'll once again share our petition in the chat, and it is case sensitive. the back half of it, of the link anyway. So our bit.ly link for it is bit.ly, that's bit.ly/ and this next part is case sensitive, CUH all uppercase, and then all lowercase, petition. So that's
And Adam,
yeah.
don't you also have like a mutual aid link?
Yeah, we can share our Venmo and GoFundMe as well.
Thank you.
But yeah, bit.ly/CUH petition, and there's a bit.ly for the GoFundMe, which I'll take an opportunity to share as well. bit.ly/CUH donate, same format, CUH all capitals, donate all lowercase. And Lou is on stack, but first, could we hear from Jess and John about practical ways to support or donate to ATU and CTM?
Yeah, I can say as far as CTM goes, and I'm going to try to make this question also about like how I hope that CTM can work with Chicago Union of the Homeless, not just how Chicago Tenants Movement could receive solidarity, I guess, or be on the receiving end of solidarity. But Chicago Tenants Movement is really built from the bottom up and from the local to the citywide, not the other way. And so what that means is that we have these local hubs, which, like I've said, I keep calling them the headquarters for supporting local tenant struggles in the area. And I really am personally very curious about the potential for these hubs, to be also like, maybe this would be the place to plug in and see if maybe local houseless struggles can be coordinated, maybe starting in like some very practical sense, like if there is something like in the Northeast, for example, like I definitely invite any Chicago Union of the Homeless organizers. I can give you my contact information. We can talk about if there are practical ways that we're coordinating actions, we're supporting. I think we're in touch with 70 tenants in the Northeast, for example, coordinating their struggles. So, or helping them, to coordinate their practical struggles with their landlords. And so maybe there could be a similar way to coordinate with the struggles of houseless people in the same community, right? Or maybe that suggests like a new kind of meeting, like a joint like fusion, like Housing Justice Council of the Northeast that could provide a venue for us to share like what are the conditions tenants are facing here, what are the conditions houseless are facing here, and what are the upcoming actions, and how could we work together, share resources, share mobilization, for these. But I would definitely be happy to make those conversations happen. But I think that building from the local up to the citywide is definitely like a promising way to begin. At the very least, that's what I personally could offer because I'm working at the local level. So I don't know if Jessica has anything to say maybe on the ATU side.
ATU is always looking for folks to help out with like collective casework and things of that nature. But they do have, I do encourage everyone who wants to join any tenant union to like read on the tactics and like their struggle, just to make sure that we're on the same page. To kind of answer your thing, John, Chicago Unity Homeless, and I'm not going to speak too much about it because I think Adam is, but they are trying to do some organizing at encampments, so that might be like a hub point. But even to widen that to the mutual aid stuff, like the keeping people warm mutual aids are also trying to do that. So I see potentiality not just for CUH and Chicago Tenants Union, but a whole lot of people to come together for this, because everybody does care. I think that one of the things that's hard is creating entry points. I would encourage anybody to want to get involved with ATU to also get involved in CTM, especially because their hotline is kind of like two different like hubs, and like if it's in Albany Park area, like ATU will take it as long as it's like a mutual thing. But I also just encourage anybody to talk to their neighbors. That's the most important thing, is talk to your neighbors, whether in your building or next to you. I think that it's really important for everybody to know who owns what. And for everybody to know like where your landlord lives and all of that stuff. So we have all that ready. So I think the most important thing to support each other in things like autonomous tenant unions is to research, to connect with each other, and to hop on asambleas and things of that nature.
Wonderful, thank you. And I'll just also share the email for Chicago Union of the Homeless, which is just simply chicagohomelessunion@gmail.com, and I'll share it in the Facebook as well. And then that along with the petition and the GoFundMe. If you want to get involved, there are a number of ways to get involved, and so just shoot us an email, and that's all I want to say for now, because we're at just 3 minutes to the hour, and we still have Lou on stack, and then closing from Daniel and Jesus. But just cannot say thank you enough to everyone for this conversation. Lou.
I'm going to be as brief as I possibly can be. I was privileged to be part of the beginning of the caucus of rank and file educators in Chicago, the caucus and the teachers union that led the strike in 2012. But this was prior to that. And at the birth of that organization, they had invited a trade unionist from Vancouver to come and talk about what her experiences were in organizing the union and how they broke the distrust that people in the community had with the teachers. And if you remember, probably about 25 years ago in the city, teachers were being vilified on every front. And that changed. And that changed because CORE within the teachers union led a movement to connect with various community organizations on their fronts of struggle, on what they were doing. And so they went to picket lines about this or that or the other. They united with parents on environmental issues, on all kinds of issues that related to the work that they themselves were doing, because they recognized as teachers that they were integral to the community, because their children, the children that they taught, were part of that community, and their parents, of course, their families were part of that community. That's a lesson for us, it seems to me. That's a lesson I learned from that. And that is that, and I'm speaking really to Jesus' question, which was, how do we support or movements like, and also the way in which John rephrased it in terms of how does the tenants movement reach out, or the homeless movement reach out. There are movements going on all around the city that we all have to be part of, because as a number of people have spoken to on this meeting, and very eloquently, we're all part of a, dealing with the same problem. We've talked about it from different ways and different points of view, but it's expressed that we are part of a common movement. And the more we see ourselves as part of a common movement, then it becomes possible for us to take part in the activities that other people are doing, not because we want to help them, but because it's our family, because we're all in the same boat together. Because when they rock the boat on one end, the other end rocks as well. And so we've got to, that's where I think what that speaks to most eloquently is how we have to get involved in these other struggles that we see around us. So I'm done.
Beautiful. Well said, Lou. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Daniel to close us out, and then we have a closing poem from Jesus, I believe.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you everybody for being here. Big shout out to everybody that came and that made this happen, the moderators, the speakers. You guys are awesome. You guys are great. This has been a great conversation today. I'm just going to speak a little teeny tiny bit. I'm going to try to be respectful of everybody's time about the League of Revolutionaries for a New America. Who are we? What are we? Who cares, right? So want to speak a little bit on that. And who are we? We are simply members of the working class. We're coming from an assortment of different backgrounds and experiences. We are social, political, and class conscious individuals working to elevate the consciousness of our class and to influence the struggle for change, as well as transform into a cooperative society, a society that must be based on the public ownership of the necessities of life instead of the corporate ownership and the distribution of goods according to need. Our mission is to connect with and unite the scattered revolutionaries and freedom fighters, the demands of a growing class of workers that are demanding food, demanding quality housing, education, and healthcare, a growing class of workers that can no longer survive in a system of corporate private property and endless oppression. We use study and analysis as our tools. We use education as our weapon to mobilize and engage in the battles of ideas. We struggle in real time in the streets, in workplaces, and everywhere else that we are. The Rally Comrades publication and website provides up-to-date articles, statements, and analysis of the key questions and events that are of importance to everyone, to the people. We encourage you to check us out and to subscribe to the Rally Comrades at rallycomrades.org. We invite you to join us in this struggle for change. The more the merrier. To be a member is to accept the program, unite around the fight for basic needs, and to study and learn from one another and realize this vision to secure our future, the future of humanity and our planet in general. So you can contact us at LRNA-Learner.org and the Learner Chicago Facebook page. If you are invited here, holler at the person that invited you, circle back to them, tell them how you felt about the event. Thank you everybody for coming today.
All right. So I wrote this poem, ironically, because I can't afford to buy a house, but it speaks to a broader context, and that is that everybody deserves a warm home that's secure, right? So it's actually just called home. I will write my house out of poems, dream a brick and mortar dwelling, perhaps one with a smiling fireplace, a yard for a mulberry tree, like limericks I used to read. There will be a warm, slumbery cat on the expansive sunny porch, an attic for love memories, a kitchen for fresh bread to feed others, warm cakes to share with children on lazy Sundays. That was it. That is home. Thank you.
Yay, I think everyone can unmute for a second before we say goodbye. Thank you for that beautiful poem, Jesus. Thank you, everyone.
Peace and love, and you guys.
Thank you,
this was
Jesus.
amazing. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you everybody for facilitating and bringing us together.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you all. Great to be here. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye, thank you.
Stay warm during this blizzard for those of you in Chicago.
Solidarity.
Mush.
Good to see you. Thank you, Claire. Hey, Lude, stick around. I gotta talk to you.
Sounds good.
All right. Peace out, comrades.
Peace, comrades. Thank you, Patrick. It's good to see you in your lovely hat.
Peace out, y'all.
Daniel, see you tomorrow, bro.
See you then.
Hey, Daniel, that was great.
You muted out, comrade. You muted out.
Did it sound natural? A little bit natural than the
Oh,
first
yeah,
time?
yeah. It was great. It was great.
And I don't know if you saw my comment. I'm like, that poem appeared in Nation by Body Blues Press.
I had a pitch rolled out, but the headphones, getting the headphones, it threw me all off. But I had a pitch. I was like, Kesu, our own comrade, Barrio Blues Press. I had a pitch and everything.
It's all good, man. It's all good. You read it beautifully. So now I have it on video to post again, which is great. Hey, Simul, I was saying I would love to get a video of you, if possible, with better Wi-Fi at some point. Let me give you my email. Because I think
we are still streaming.
Oh shit! Sorry, sorry. Thanks. Wait, I don't want to stop in meeting. Hold up. I've done this before. Hold up. I can do this. Thank you, comrade. I totally.